Let me ask you something. If I took away everything you owned, your money, your job, your connections, but left you with your current mindset, could you rebuild it all again? Most people think wealth begins with money. But the truth is, wealth begins with psychology. With the thoughts you think when no one's watching. With the habits you repeat when no one's keeping score. Psychologist Dweck once said, "Greater than the view you adopt for yourself, profoundly affects the way you lead your life." And that's where the story of wealth truly starts. Not in your wallet, but in your mind. We live in a world that worships more. More followers, more likes, more money, more success. But have you noticed? The more people chase, the emptier they often feel. That's because we've been trained to think wealth is something external, something you get. But psychologically speaking, wealth is a state of being long before it becomes a state of having. Behavioral economist Daniel Kahneman, a Nobel laureate, showed through decades of research that money does increase happiness, but only up to a point. Once your basic needs are met, extra income brings diminishing emotional returns. Why? Because the brain quickly adapts a phenomenon called the hedonic treadmill. You get the new car, the new house, the new lifestyle, and soon, they feel ordinary again. That's why people keep running, but never feel like they're arriving anywhere. This is something philosopher and motivational teacher Jim Rohn said decades ago. Greater than work harder on yourself than you do on your job. At first, it sounds like a cliché, but it's actually a profound psychological principle. See, your income rarely exceeds your personal growth. Because the market doesn't pay you for time, it pays you for value. And value is a reflection of your skills, awareness, and mindset. A broke mindset inside a millionaire's life will always find a way to go broke again. That's why lottery winners often end up where they started. Because their inner psychology wasn't built to sustain their outer fortune. It's like trying to install high-performance software on an old computer. It just crashes. You can't build an abundant life on a scarcity operating system. So how do you upgrade that system? It starts with awareness. Cognitive psychology calls it metacognition, thinking about your thinking. It's the ability to observe your own beliefs instead of being ruled by them. Ask yourself, what do I really believe about money? Do I secretly think rich people are greedy? Do I believe success is for them, not for me? Your beliefs act like silent scripts, and your behavior follows them. As Dr. Joe Dispenza puts it, greater than your personality creates your personal reality. And your personality is made of how you think, act, and feel. If you want a new reality, you must first change the way you think, act, and feel not once, but consistently. Most people overestimate what they can achieve in a month, and underestimate what they can achieve in 5 years. Psychologically, we crave instant results. Dopamine loves the quick win. But real transformation happens through the compound effect. Small actions repeated over time. Reading 10 pages a day. Saving 5% of your income. Waking up 30 minutes earlier to plan your day. Individually, these seem trivial. But over years, they rewire your brain's reward system, shifting you from impulse-driven to goal-driven. It's not magic. It's neuroscience. The brain forms new neural pathways through repetition, what psychologists call neuroplasticity. You literally become the person your habits train you to be. In an era of 15-second attention spans, long-term thinking feels like rebellion. But the wealthiest, happiest, and most fulfilled people play a different game, the long game. Warren Buffett once said, "The stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient." That's not just about stocks, it's about life. The world rewards patience, discipline, and consistency, qualities deeply rooted in strong psychological self-regulation. Psychologist Walter Mischel demonstrated this decades ago in his famous marshmallow experiment. Children who could delay gratification, who resisted eating one marshmallow now for the promise of 2 later, grew up to have better careers, health, and financial stability. So, maybe the secret isn't working harder. It's learning how to wait smarter. Let's talk about fear, not the fear of spiders or heights, but the quiet, invisible fear that whispers, what if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? Every person chasing success meets this voice. And here's the truth. That voice doesn't disappear as you grow richer or more successful. It just speaks a different language. Psychologist Abraham Maslow, known for the hierarchy of needs, once said, "One can choose to go back toward safety or forward toward growth. Growth must be chosen again and again. Fear must be overcome again and again." That's the paradox of progress. The more you grow, the more fear tries to follow. But fear isn't a stop sign, it's a compass. It points exactly toward the place you need to go next. Every major leap, starting a business, investing your savings, speaking in public, changing your life comes with fear attached. Yet, the people who win are not fearless. They simply act despite fear. Neuroscientifically, courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the regulation of it. Studies show that when you face fear intentionally, the amygdala, the brain's alarm system, begins to calm down faster each time. In other words, your brain learns courage. So the next time fear shows up, smile. It's proof that you're growing. Let's get one thing straight. You cannot separate wealth from failure. Every self-made success story is built on a mountain of things that didn't work. Psychologist Albert Bandura described a key concept called self-efficacy, your belief in your ability to handle challenges. People with high self-efficacy don't fear failure as much, because they see it as feedback, not as proof of inadequacy. Thomas Edison famously said, "I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That's self-efficacy in action. Failure only becomes permanent when you attach it to your identity. "When I failed" turns into "I am a failure." But psychologically, that's a distortion. You are not your outcomes. You are your efforts, your lessons, your growth. The most successful people don't avoid failure. They manage its meaning. They've trained their mind to separate self-worth from results, and that's emotional intelligence in its purest form. Here's a truth many people never realize. Money is emotional. We like to think it's logical, numbers and math. But our financial behavior is often driven by fear, pride, guilt, and even love. Behavioral psychologist Daniel Kahneman found that people feel losses twice as intensely as gains. That's why we cling to bad investments or delay decisions. Our brain hates losing more than it loves winning. But if you want true wealth, you must learn emotional neutrality. The ability to stay calm when everyone else panics. This isn't coldness, it's discipline. It's understanding that emotions are signals, not instructions. When you learn to feel fear without following it, or feel greed without obeying it, you've unlocked one of the highest forms of self. Because here's the thing, the richer you become, the more emotional control you'll need. Wealth magnifies who you are, it doesn't fix you. That's why inner peace is the greatest currency of all. There's a fascinating concept in psychology called the growth mindset, popularized by Dr. Dweck. She found that people who believe their abilities can grow through effort and learning outperform those who believe intelligence or talent are fixed traits. The same applies to wealth. If you see yourself as bad with money, not lucky, or just average, you've already built invisible walls around your potential. But when you shift that identity even slightly from "I can't" to "I'm learning how," everything changes. Think about it. Every expert you admire was once a beginner, fumbling in the dark. They just didn't quit while they were still bad at it. That's the psychological bridge between average and extraordinary. The willingness to keep showing up. Neuroscience calls it dopamine-driven learning. When you celebrate small progress, you reinforce motivation. Your brain literally rewards you for growth, not perfection. So don't wait until you're confident to start. Start until you become confident. Psychology also teaches us that environment shapes behavior more than willpower. Social psychologist Kurt Lewin once said, "Greater than behavior is a function of the person and their environment." You can have the best mindset in the world, but if you spend every day surrounded by negativity, comparison, and chaos, your growth will eventually suffocate. That's why the people you surround yourself with matter more than you think. We unconsciously mirror the attitudes, beliefs, and habits of those around us, a process called social contagion. If your circle treats mediocrity as normal, excellence will feel like arrogance. But if your circle treats growth as normal, effort becomes effortless. So, choose wisely. Find people who challenge your comfort, not your potential. Here's something most people never hear in school. Money is not the goal, it's a reflection. It's energy that flows toward value, service, and growth. When you solve problems, money follows. When you help others, money amplifies. When you evolve, opportunities find you. You don't chase wealth, you attract it by becoming someone who deserves it. That's not philosophy. That's behavioral psychology. Your brain's reticular activating system, RAS, filters what you notice based on what you believe. If you believe money is evil, your brain will unconsciously ignore opportunities to earn more. If you believe money is good when used wisely, your brain begins spotting value where others see none. Your mindset literally edits your reality. So the secret isn't how to make more money. It's how to become the kind of person who can handle more money without losing themselves. Gratitude might seem cliché, but psychologically, it's one of the most powerful wealth habits there is. Studies by Dr. Robert Emmons show that people who practice gratitude daily experience higher levels of happiness, better health, and even better financial outcomes. Why? Because gratitude shifts your focus from scarcity to abundance. When you appreciate what you have, your brain produces serotonin and dopamine, the same chemicals linked with motivation and joy. You think clearer, you make better decisions. You stop acting out of desperation and start acting out of inspiration. Gratitude doesn't make you complacent. It makes you content enough to grow from peace, not panic. If money compounds when you invest it, knowledge compounds when you apply it. Psychologist Anders Ericsson, who studied expertise, found that mastery isn't about talent, it's about deliberate practice. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is a few more repetitions done with awareness. Read, reflect, experiment. That's how you grow your mental capital. And here's the thing. Knowledge pays the best interest. Because it doesn't just change your income, it changes your perspective. And when your perspective changes, your whole life follows. In the end, wealth isn't about having everything. It's about having enough and knowing what enough means to you. Psychologist Carl Rogers once said, "The good life is a process, not a state of being. It is a direction, not a destination." You can have millions and still feel poor inside if you haven't defined what matters. But when you find alignment between who you are, what you value, and what you create, you feel rich, even before the money comes. True wealth is when your time, mind, and heart are your own. So here's the truth. You can't control the economy. You can't control the market. But you can control how you think, how you act, and who you become. And that's where real wealth begins. Every new idea you learn, every fear you face, every time you choose growth over comfort, you're investing in something no one can take away, your mind. So, stop waiting for the perfect moment. Start building the perfect mindset. Because one day, you'll look back and realize, the richest thing you ever owned was the person you became along the way.